This is Brad Montgomery. Welcome to the Successful, Interesting, and Awesome podcast, where I interview people who are, wait for it, successful, interesting, and awesome. Or at least one of those three. Hey everybody, it's Brad Montgomery. Oh, I have missed you. How's it going? Are you washing your hands? I know you are. Well, I love this podcast, but let's just say it. Some podcasts are more fun than others, and those are the days when you get to interview Chad Hymas. Chad Hymas is a very old friend, but also he's a guy I've looked up to and admired. He's a guy who's just rocked the speaking world, and today he's a guy who's joining us on this podcast. Chad Hymas, welcome to the stage.
I feel the same way about you, Brad. Geez, I'm awestruck. I'm starstruck, right? I get to hang out with Brad Montgomery. So
yeah, and you should be, because by the way, I am awesome. Hello.
I know, we all know that. Everybody that's watching this knows that. That's why they're watching. They're not watching because of the guests. They're watching because of the aurora in the countenance and the enthusiasm, the joy and happiness, your face. That's contagious, and it's a ripple effect for other people. So
first of all, that made me feel good, and second of all, that little thing you just did is classic Chad Hymas. That is one of the things you are so dang good at. Do you even know what that is?
I'm not saying that now. I don't know what that is, but I do know that it was genuine what I said, and I meant it. And every time I talk to you, I feel the same way. You know what's cool for those of you that are watching this is I'll get cool little videos from Brad out of nowhere that just says, "Hey man, I'm thinking about you." And they're videos. It's not a text. It's not an email. It's a video. And Brad talks a different way than most. Brad talks thinking first before he says something. He talks authentically. So a lot of people that think first before they talk, it's articulated well. It's not that Brad's not articulated, it's just authentic, it's real. And so when I get a message from Brad Montgomery, it sounds something like this. "Hey, man, I love you. I just wanted to know I'm thinking about you. Dude, did you know that you rock?" And I'm just saying, he says it just, you guys know this because you've watched Brad, you follow Brad. That's a gift he has. You cannot be trained to speak that way or to talk that way or to even we all have our special gifts. That's to me one of Brad Montgomery's gifts. So whenever I get a video message from Brad Montgomery, it's better than a Hallmark card. It's better than I won't say better than kissing my wife, but it ranks up there. It's right there. It's close.
Well, I don't know because I've never kissed your wife, so I'll have.
But you've kissed yours, and so so you're good there.
Well, that is so nice, and it felt so good as it washed over me. Isn't it funny how powerful compliments are? Thank you for that nice one.
We all need them.
Well, this brings up a topic I wanted to ask anyway, so why not?
What's that?
I'm super interested in the fact that some of us are so good at making others feel good. And when I think of who's able to do that, Chad Hymas, top of the line. Somehow you're able to look at people and give a legitimate, honest compliment, and it just makes them feel so good. But we also know that not everybody has that skill. Either they feel awkward doing it, or they just, for whatever reason, they're just not that great at it. What's your take on that? I know you must be aware that you have that ability.
I find great advantage in celebrating other people's victories before my own. I have found that to open up doors. I have found that to open up relationships. I know what it's like to be unkind to yourself. I've had those feelings. For those of you that don't know, I am paralyzed. I'm not using that as a crutch or an excuse, but when you go through a crisis or a pandemic such as that, and you're married to a beautiful gal like I was and still am, it was easy for me to put my mind in a place of unworthiness of such a beautiful prize, unworthy to teach my kids. And so there's power. I have found a lot of power in relationship building, and I've been coached by mentors, by people that have helped me to see the power of celebrating others before yourself, which has helped me then to feel worthy to fit back into a relationship with my wife, a contributor to society. But you have to be willing to celebrate other successes and not look at all that you've lost. And honor that loss by what you still have. So I've lost 95% of my body. I've lost the ability to have freedom this last year, the last 15 months, like most that are watching. Lost the ability to go to an NCAA basketball game or a movie with my wife. That's all kind of, I know it's coming back slowly, but we've lost a lot. But I still have the ability to have dinner with my wife at home. And I still have the ability to watch a movie with her and have date night. And so when I'm, and celebrate some of those small successes. So I hope that's staying on topic with what we're talking about now. But when I do that, Brad, boy, the doors just keep opening. The relationships just keep getting stronger and stronger. It might be something as simple as a text, like the videos that you sent to me. Only, if it's a text message, it might sound something like this. Hey kids, this is Dad. Just want to let you know you're proud of you guys that going to college amidst the pandemic and doing good in school. You need to know how proud I am of each of you and the fact that you're going to school and growing yourself and growing your mind. It's an inspiration to me. Please know that I'm always thinking of you. I don't even tell them I love them. It's demonstrated by the text. The next time my kids are faced with some sort of depression or some sort of loss because they are not able to go to college activities because they're at a minimum right now, they're going to know that I'm looking up to them. And that's the ammunition they use to fight it back with.
Well, I'm struck with the fact that that's awesome. Well done, Chad Hymas. But also, that's so not normal. Like, I think if you polled the dudes your age in your state, in your community, in the country, and say, how many of you feel comfortable doing what Chad just explained? The answer would be most of them would say, I don't feel comfortable with that.
You think so?
Totally.
I don't, they might say, they might say, here's my take on that. I think they say they feel comfortable. They just don't do it. So
why not? Why do you think they don't?
I think that the same reason we've always put our best face forward on Facebook. It's easy to answer what's right. It's easy to say what's right. Doing it, it was easy for me to say on a stage that things are, here's my family, take a look. But deep down, Brad, I was hiding the truth. I was in a dark place for years. I'd been hiding behind an audience, and then I'd come home, and it'd be tough because the person that I love the most helps me out a lot. And I know we say that in our wedding vows, for better or for worse, but we don't plan on some of the most intricate parts of our life being assisted by the person we love the most. So I find greater comfort in having strangers help me, if that makes sense. So back to the point at hand, why do people not do that? I think that it's, again, easy to put our best face forward, easy to make ourselves look nice on some sort of a social media platform or a picture, but deep down, people are dying. People are hurting. People are struggling, and I feel like I can relate to that. And so, I
agree with you. I'm just saying there's more to it because I think people were crappy at giving those heartfelt compliments before COVID, and even people who are in a good, even when they're in a good headspace, have trouble expressing that type of positivity and love.
Yeah, I think, and I don't disagree with you there. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out why. I think if we're in the presence of a Chad Hymas, we all feel like, oh, that was like tonic. It felt so good. So we see the power, we feel the power, yet I don't think we do it. And I'm wondering if you can help me figure out why not.
I don't know that I have an answer for you, Brad. I don't. I think you're right. I think you're onto something. I don't know why people don't do it. I don't know, but I know that I continue to preach on the stage, and I think I have more credibility now because I think COVID has helped me to learn a little bit more than I knew in the past. I thought I was doing pretty good, but COVID was a wake-up call for me because, like you, now stuck at home, and even for those that don't need the personal assistance that I need, what a challenge it must be to be, at home not doing what you and I love to do. It brings it with challenges. You start to see things in your family that you never saw before. And yes, there's opportunity there, but it's not what you're used to. I mean, you're used to flying as well. So You've been at home for 15 months. I've been home for 15 months. And so things have changed a little bit.
All right. Well, we have one thing in common. Both of us worked very recently for healthcare organizations in person, and we worked for 100% vaccinated audiences, and they felt comfortable bringing us in, so we did. Here's the question. How are you different now post-COVID in front of a live audience than you were before, and is it because of COVID? I think you hinted towards it.
Yeah, I think that COVID has opened up my mind to be more grateful for what I've been given to be on the platform. I think sometimes when we lose something like that freedom of being on the stage and that fulfillment, that joy, it becomes more sacred to us. I think that when things start to open up even a little bit more, and they are opening up slowly, we're seeing that right now. As you talked about, you speaking in front of a healthcare organization, I think that people are going to jump at the chance to go to an outdoor activity, jump at the chance to go to a movie. I think that church houses, no matter what faith they are, no matter, they're going to be packed. I think that sometimes in order for us to hold something very, very sacred, we have to lose it first. That's probably a sad thing in our lives, but unfortunately, that's the truth. Um, it gives us time to reflect and really kind of hold something more firm, hold more true to our values, be more appreciative of our family. I've heard this before when I've seen a suicide in a family. Oh, we never saw it coming. And then all of a sudden they have a candle vigil. A bunch of the students show up and they honor the life and they start setting up foundations. You and I have a dear friend in our speakers group whose son died due to suicide, and after that, some eyes were opened, a foundation has now been set up, and that is their family's total focus right now. Why now instead of before? I'm not judging that person at all. I think it's phenomenal what that family's done. I think it's phenomenal. But sometimes it takes that kind of loss in order for us to
Yeah.
get something bad and ugly out of our life or out of the world. And so does that make sense to that?
Yeah, it does.
So
So
anyway,
I was on stage. It was just could it be 2 days ago? Just 2 days ago.
I know.
Chad, I
But
was on stage and I
yeah,
got weepy. I I was like so
I
into
know.
it. It was so emotional.
You missed it so much. I felt
Yeah.
the same way. As soon as I wheeled my chair out on stage and they were cheering for me, I said, you know what? I'm applauding you because you're giving me an opportunity to share a few thoughts today. And I miss you guys. And that was my first time with that group. I mean, I've never met them before, but I miss people. And so I lost it. Mine was yesterday with that healthcare. Mine was yesterday in front of a bunch of unmasked healthcare workers that all been vaccinated, and I lost it. I did. I called myself a sap right on stage.
Oh,
Lost
well,
it.
how's this for a small world? I told my audience I miss them and I've never seen them before.
Yeah, same thing. We're feeling the same thing. And you know what? I think a lot of our colleagues are going to be doing the same thing because this virtual stuff is all well and good, and it'll change the way that we meet together. But nothing replaces being together with people. Nothing replaces that.
Yeah, it was so touching because I haven't been on stage. This was the first time for me, Chad. Um, and I was, we tell ourselves and we coach each other and we say, be present for the audience and be there for them.
Yeah,
But it's not always easy to do when you have a cold or you're tired or you're thinking about the
sure.
flight that's way too close to the end of the program or all those things that we have to do. And this one day I was like perfectly with them in a way that was so exciting for me. It was just it was so fun.
Yeah, it was. I get it. I get that feeling. It's phenomenal. But again, back to your point, and the question that you asked is has COVID changed that? I think it has, and I think it will. I think when we think of a lot of our dear friends, Christine Cashin, the first time she takes a stage, she's going to weep. I mean, we know that. A lot of our dear friends that you and I associate with on a regular basis, they're going to weep. A lot of Hall of Famers who um, our egos tend to lower now, right? We're more humble, we're more subdued,
Mm.
we're more grateful. I think that football players and basketball players that are well known are instead of their egos being high up in the air, they're going to be out amongst their fans, thanking them for coming back to support them and to show their gratitude. So hope
I,
that's my hope. I don't know if that's the case, but that's my hope. I believe that's probably going to happen.
I think I hope you take this as a compliment. But there's a
That's
difference
scary
between
right
our
there. That's
backgrounds.
scary.
I came to speaking as an entertainer. And I think the relationship between an entertainer and an audience is different from a speaker and an audience. And an entertainer, you know, you don't always have to be present. Like I have a really good friend who has a juggling show. His show is exactly, he can rehearse it without an audience. It's exactly the same as with an audience because it's perfect, but it's a juggling show and speakers don't have to do that. And so I come from that background of almost an adversarial role with the audience where you say things like, how's the audience? Tough room, tough room. Or, how'd you do? I killed. I dominated. I won. Whereas speakers don't tend to talk like that. At least the speakers I really love don't
Yeah.
do that. And so now we're bringing it back to you, mister. I told my wife the night before, because I told her I was nervous because it had been so long. And I said, I'm just going to embrace my inner Chad Hymas. Because I wanted to do something that I think you are so natural at that you don't, it's not even a technique. It's just a Chad Hymas thing where you are just there. You were just with that audience and you're not doing your material is secondary.
Yeah.
And so I can't be Chad Hymas, but that doesn't mean I can't learn from him.
Well, you don't need to be Chad Hymas. I mean, people love you because of you. And I think that people love each of us individually because of what we bring to the table. And I'm not talking about the speaker world. I think we all have unique gifts. I believe that. And I think that we're to escalate those unique gifts. And, I can't tie in cards like you do so phenomenally into your messages and use the power of illusion like you do in your messages, but it adds flavor. And now when you can be authentic and real and show genuine love and gratitude to the audience, it just magnifies the illusions that you do. And people are more, they're right there with you. In the industry, we say they're in the palm of your hand. I think it's more than, I think they need Brad Barr, they need Brad Montgomery in their lives.
And
They need
also
to have
Brad Barton.
Brad Barton's phenomenal. Brad's
Yeah,
great.
we love him too. Well, so can we talk about this thing that I don't even know how I would articulate what we're talking about, but it's a thing. I feel like I have grown into this and am still growing into this. And in many ways, I think at age 55, I'm hitting my stride, yo. Is that true with you? Or when you were an entry level speaker, were you still super present? Or were you more like, here's my story, here's my.
Yeah, it was. So the answer is as more my story. When I started, it was not quite as customized. I learned really quick that you know I needed to be more relevant on the platform, relevant to the audience. And so I had a gentleman by the name of Joel Weldon that you and I are familiar with
Yeah.
that helped me to understand the power of really relating myself to the audience and being more authentic and real. Because I'm not speaking to a bunch of people in wheelchairs. And so I don't have to talk about the wheelchair. I don't have to say a word about it. I don't have to say a word about my legs or my hands. That's not why I'm there anyway. And once I started to learn how to do that, and I was able to get some video footage of that and then do that in person in front of people, more opportunities came my way for sure. Right. So they're
Mm.
hiring me for some knowledge, wisdom, hope. They're hiring me for hope, which I think is a big reason why people are hiring right now and bringing speakers in. Then they are bringing in some guy in a wheelchair to share his story. Because
Right.
I don't share, it's not my story. In fact, I'm not even sharing the audience's story. The true benefactors of the audience being there are the people that they go home to and that they influence or that they go to work to and influence. And so once I share that with the audience and help them realize the impact that they have in other people's lives, they'll be more in tune, they'll listen more, they'll engage more, because it's a simple principle. They'll do things for others that they won't do for themselves. Once the audience buys into that, once my kids realize that they can impact the lives of other people just by their countenance and by what comes out of their mouth, they'll listen more to mom and dad. They'll be more in tune because they'll do things for their friends that they won't do for themselves. So sometimes if we're at a meeting for ourselves, we'll do this. We'll just we'll nod and we'll be sidetracked by texting. But if we really believe that we can benefit somebody else by by gaining knowledge, by gaining wisdom, by gaining some nuggets, some gems from another person's experiences. We'll listen with more intent. We will jot notes down, and we'll try and apply those principles or those tangible tools as soon as possible, because it could benefit somebody else. And I think for the most part, people are that way.
Right.
They're good people. They want to help others.
It strikes me that I could have had this conversation with you 20 years ago, Chad, and I would have nodded it and said, "Oh yeah, right on." But somehow, when you've done it more, the nuance is there, and what I would have told my 20-year-old version or 20 years ago self is like, "You're not getting it, Brad. You're nodding your head, but you don't get it." I wonder if there's any way to shorten that learning curve for people. I wish I could have shortened it for me.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe we all have to go through these different stages in our life in order to get there. And maybe there is no age. Some get younger than others, and others it's a little bit longer. But I think the important thing is not when we get it, but that we do get it sometime, right? I don't think that the big man upstairs or God is, how many years or how many people did you influence? I don't think that, at the end. And the reason why my mind goes there, Brad, is because I just got news that and I'm speaking at his funeral. My 92-year-old grandfather passed away at 2:30 in the morning, and the funeral is Tuesday in Rock Springs, and so I will go to that event, and then I'll fly and get to Reno for next week's event. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I look at that and look at him and his life and the impact. He was really rough for much of my growing up. When I say rough, he was very regimented on his way. But towards the latter 10 years, especially after my grandma left us, his wife, Patty, they'd been married for 60 years. When he lost her, he changed. He changed. How did he change? Well, he went and sat at the grave every day, 365 days a year, ever since till the time that he couldn't move anymore, and sat right there, because that's where he felt like he could talk to his wife. And tell her that he was sorry, and tell her that he loved her, and tell her that he was grateful for the dances that they had and their courtship. He would take pictures of them when they were young, and he was handsome and full of enthusiasm, and entrepreneur, and had his own company for his entire career. And he really pushed hard, but there were some things that maybe he missed out on. And so later on in life, he learned what we're talking about now, and he just wanted to make sure that he was aware of that. So I think about that, and I don't think that it's a matter of getting it early. I just think it's a matter that we got it, and my grandpa got it. And I'm proud of him for that, because he inspired me. And I'm going to share that on Tuesday in his Catholic funeral. And I'm not even Catholic, and I get to speak it. What an honor that's going to be, to speak at a mass on behalf of the family for my grandfather, and share some of those thoughts that have, he got it. Was it later in life? Yes, but he got it. I think that's important.
Sorry you lost your granddad.
It's a good thing. I believe right now he's with my grandmother. I think that's a very, very, yes, I'm going to miss him. And that is that is sorrow. That is, and there's a time to mourn, and we are mourning for sure. We're going to miss him. I'm going to miss him. But I have a belief system that allows me to find a little bit of peace. Doesn't fix the loss,
right?
But it does bring me some joy and some peace.
Wow, that's a gift. Your granddad would be so proud if he. I don't know what you're going to say, but other than what you hinted at, but I know your granddad would be pretty proud.
I hope so. He was good to me. Very good.
Well, you said he was rough, so that means he was one of those guys we kind of talked about earlier. Not a nurturer, not a complimenter, not a hugger.
For sure. It was his way or no way. For many, and we all knew that. Even his grandkids growing up, it was his way. But as time went on, that changed. He was firm with my grandmother. He was very, very regimented, and he was a workaholic, and it changed, and it changed even as we got older and started playing high school basketball. We saw him make time to start showing up, where before he was just too busy. And then he starts showing up at our games from Rock Springs and coming to Salt Lake, 3-hour drive. And he would arrive, and then he would take us and say, "You need to have these Jordans. No more Converse. You need to have these Jordans." And my parents would say, "The kids don't need Jordans. Are good." And Grandpa said, "I'm taking the kids to get Jordans. They need to have Jordans." And that's just, I guess that's what, but we never saw that side of him until,
Yeah.
but as a young kid growing up, I knew that Grandpa was tough. I knew he was always at work. Whenever we went to Rock Springs to visit, you know, I knew that Grandpa was, had the things to do. And so we would see Grandma, but Grandpa, not quite so often. But that changed. And it changed, kept changing. Even until at the time of his passing, he was just more compassionate, more loving, more grateful. And he became more relatable to me
Sure.
I'm the oldest grandchild. So there's 29 of us, and I'm the oldest of all the, my mother's the oldest child, and I'm the oldest grandchild. And so, yeah, I saw it firsthand.
My grandfather was like that, but he never changed. And as an adult, I just wonder about him. So here's what I remember about my grandmother and grandfather. I I think my dad would be off at a band rehearsal or whatever he would did at night, and my mom would call her mom and say, "Why don't you make dinner for me and my kids?" And I'm guessing my grandma jumped at that, like, "Oh, goody, bring him over." And so we would have dinner at this table, and my grandfather didn't join us, and it was a small 2-bedroom apartment. And then we would play poker with my grandma, the little kids, and we had poker chips, and grandma taught us how to play poker, and laughing and thinking grandma was the best. And my grandfather was one room away with the television on, and my adult self just wants to go, dude, you missed it. You missed that. I wish
Yeah,
I'd love to go talk to him as an adult, but of course that's not an option.
I hear you. I yeah, I think, and a way to, you can't change, obviously you can't change our past, but I think the way you honor and maybe help honor what you learned from your grandfather, although it might be minimal, is by the way you live your life, because of the way that you want to be like him, or maybe there's some things that you would like to change and not live a certain way. And then you honor him by that life. And then I think one day you get that gratitude. That's just my belief. One day you get that, you know what, I'm sure proud of you. And that probably doesn't take place in this life, but I'm sure looking forward to the next. Not that I want to, we all want to go to heaven. We just don't want to go today. So,
No, no,
right.
we don't.
So,
Well, you know that one of the topics I wanted to talk to you about was who encouraged you, and we're kind of on that because we're talking about your granddad, and clearly he made an impression. But I'm always curious, because this is my topic, and when I'm in front of my audience, is always a variation about encouragement and acknowledgement and all that. And I'm so curious to know, when you find people like you, just crazy successful, who are those people for you? You mentioned your granddad.
There's not one. There's like, but in the beginning it was my father, and then it was the doctors and the nurses and the therapists. Just encouraging me to keep battling through, and then there was the psychologist in the hospital who I was really struggling mentally with, and today I still have that challenge a little bit. And so I'm even seeing a coach for that today. I had a meeting last night when I ride back in town. I call him a coach, not a therapist, because I think he's coaching me to be a better husband, be a better father. After being married for 26 years, I'm still learning that. So I'm being coached there. I'm with my office staff more now than ever before. That's been huge because I've relied on them more. They know now, probably more than they've ever known, and they've been with me for many, many years. Probably some of my darkest secrets. They know who I really am. There's no hiding that, right? Whether that's good or bad or a little bit of both, they know that. They know what frustrates me. They know what makes me happy. I know them, what their needs. We've had some deep talks. We've had some great moments. We've had some challenging moments. But I think that those are the encouragers, right? All those moments combined together. And I'm around them probably more than anybody else. And you're only as good as the people that you hang around. So I've got to have people that I'm around the most be really encouraging for me, and I need to be that for them. I need to I need to be. It's reciprocated. It's got to go back and forth. Otherwise, it's a one-sided relationship, right? And so Shondell is a big part of that. My boys, my daughter, big part of that. Um, in the speaking world, it was a guy that came and visited me in the hospital who was a speaker that was also a quadriplegic who started things off kind of for me. Not to be a speaker, just to learn that I could live life in a wheelchair. And having him come into my room and then finding out later that he was a speaker and then losing him a year later to death, that was that was an eye opener that maybe I needed to fill some shoes that were missed. And so that's been a big one for me in my life. And he's not even here to encourage, but I think about him a lot.
I know we're talking about Art Berg. He died a year after your accident?
Yeah, he died about 10 months, a little shy of 10 months after the accident.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I was injured in April. He died on February 19th, 2002. And during that course, that short period of time, my dad had seen him speak right at an event. When I got hurt, when I was injured, just a couple months after my dad saw him speak, my dad contacted his office and he showed up at my hospital. I mean, he showed up, no appointment. I mean, we didn't know he was coming. He just showed up, and I was a nobody. And it all kind of started with that, Brett. So think about that. And so, long story short, I got to know him over the course of those 9 months, and I was learning from him, just life skills, not speaking skills, not platforms, just life skills, just living skills, getting dressed, being kind to yourself, namaste, gun shy, right? Gun shy, I mean, G-E-N-S-H, everybody should look that up. G-E-N-S-H-A-I, gun shy, go look it up. Never belittle anybody else, especially that of yourself. That's the meaning of gun shy. Never belittle or make less of anybody else, especially that of yourself. He was teaching me that. And we lost him unexpectedly 10 months later. And that's when it kind of hit me. And I wonder if I could maybe contribute to the world and fill a void that's now missing, right? Can I not take his place, because no one can ever take somebody else's place, but carry on a legacy,
right?
Keep living it on, keep that going. And so that's an encouragement for me to keep moving today and to keep going. And when I'm no longer here, I hope that someone sees that and keeps it going as well, right? So.
Let me ask you more about Art. So at the time you needed help most, this guy showed up. What was most helpful? By the way, I'm putting money on the fact that I know the answer to this, but I'm so curious. What was more important to you, the tactical advice he gave you, like getting dressed, or was it just emotional support, like, you can do this, Chad?
I think it's a little bit of both, but I don't even know that it was words, because when Art came into the room, he didn't speak. He didn't say, hello, my name's Art. He put the bag of goodies, which was VHS tapes, by the way, and a couple of books, put it aside. And it's amazing what we can learn just by watching somebody else. That guy transferred himself with no hands onto my hospital bed right by me and just started to unbutton the shirt using a little tool. I mean, just like this. I was watching, and his hands looked just like my hands. I mean, it was amazing to watch. And then he had some jeans on, and he had some long johns on underneath. He just took off the jeans, 1 foot is all, and he put it back in. Slip-on shoes, nice looking shoes, and he just showed me that. Then he hopped back down in his chair and said, don't tell me that it can't be done. He didn't talk about his wife. He didn't talk about his kids, nothing about a career. I didn't know he'd set a world record in his chair. I knew nothing about that. I just knew that he lightened up that room.
Yeah.
And he just said, I'm here to help. I'm here to bring if you need anything at all, here's my personal cell. And when the time is right, you'll call me. And if you don't call me, I'm not going to be calling you. You'll call me because you need to learn. And so then it was bits and pieces. Like when I got home, bathroom care. Can I come look at your bathroom, your house, Art? How do you hold your wife's hand? Just everything. He had nothing to hide. We went out for a ride one night. We went over for dinner to Art's house. And he showed me his office, and that's when I first got a glimpse. I thought he was some sort of an accountant or something, because his office was full of books. And
you never watched those VCR tapes.
I had the computer set up, and had the dual floppy drive. That's how long this was. Right now they're used for door stops and toilet seats, step ups. But at any rate, he had a very, very nice office. It was upstairs, so there was an elevator that took us upstairs to where his office was. And Donnie's office, who was his assistant, it was right there next to his. And I didn't, really get a glimpse that he was a speaker back then. But he told me that he did. And there was a bunch of books that he had written that were on a shelf, and so I saw that as well. And it was just, so to answer your question, I maybe a little bit of both, Brad, but I think probably more emotional, because I was emotionally unstable. The tactical stuff, yes, I think that ties in and adds to the emotional state, but emotionally I was a wreck, because I didn't see an open door, an open window to living a life, being 95% numb, and being the provider of a family.
Right.
How does somebody do that? I mean, you break your neck today, Brad, and you're 95% numb. It makes you think, buddy. If you have any love for your spouse at all, or any concept of providing, it causes you to think about things that you've never thought about before. I believe that. And I went through that, and he was there because he'd been through it, and he knew it was possible. And I didn't know anybody that had done it before, and he showed me that it could be done. So in 9 months, I got at least the beginnings of that, and I've grown from that, and I've taken it to other levels, and I've learned new things and do things, probably differently than what Art would do. But that was the kickstart, right? So it's been almost 20 years.
My spidey sense tells me that was as meaningful for Art Berg as it was for you. And I've heard stories, but not from you, that you have been that person for other people who have lost the use of their limbs and are 95% numb. Can you speak to being that person for others, and also what it does for you?
Yeah, I enjoy it thoroughly. And it's not just people that have lost their limbs. It's people that are going through life-altering change. I just went to the hospital to visit somebody that I was asked to go visit on a week ago Sunday, St. Joseph's Hospital. I went to that facility and visited an elderly person that's 82 years old. I was asked to do that. Not paralyzed at all, but definitely going through the trauma of not wanting the family in the room at all. Their bodies deteriorating. It's not working, functioning right. The kidneys are failing. They're in the last stage of their life, and the family just wants to be in the room. That's all they want. And the individual is so caught up in themselves and so caught up in the anger and the frustration of not being able to use the restroom on their own and wearing a diaper, that they would rather die in loneliness than to have the family there with them. And I don't have an answer for that, other than I want them to know that they have an opportunity to leave this life with a legacy, and with a few final messages that don't even have to be spoken. It's a simple smile and spending time. Because the greatest gift we can give to anybody is out of our time. And this individual is robbing their spouse and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren of just some time. It's not COVID. They're not going to get sick. The hospital is allowing people to visit. The patient has asked that nobody enter that room. And so I was contacted by the spouse to go see this individual. The spouse agreed after seeing some YouTube videos that were on YouTube. And so I went to visit this person. And I went in there with Art. I didn't say a word. I went in there and I smiled and grabbed that person's hand. I couldn't feel it. And just said, "It's really an honor to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thanks so much for," and I said, how are you doing? And the individual told me, "I'm glad that you're here. How did you do it?" That was the first question. How did you do it? My answer was simple. I didn't. I'm still trying to do it. It's okay.
Oh.
It's okay that you're struggling. I still struggle. It's not perfection, it's progress. And your family's out there, and they're part of that piece. I don't have to tell you that they love you. You already know that. I'm not here to tell you or convince you that you should let them in. You already know that. I'm not here for any of those reasons, other than to let you know that it's okay where you're at. Because I'm not here to, you've heard it already. they've already talked to you about this. I just know that you talking to your grandchildren will set the tone for their progress or lack thereof when you're no longer here.
Mm.
So what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Do you want to leave this life as a hermit? Because you can. You've got that. The nurses will keep everybody away, and you can die lonely if that's what you want, because you're dying, and we know that. Or you can die with an opportunity to have a last-minute meeting with your family and let them know some of the things you've learned in your life. And I don't condone you either way. I'm not here to judge you. All I know is when I left that night, the family was all called into the room by the individual, and they had a family council. They called it a family home evening, is what they called it, and they even ordered in some of the patient's favorite food, and they all broke bread together. So I think that's cool. It wasn't spiritual per se or religious. That's not why I went there, but it was just kind of and I didn't stay but 30 minutes. But that's all art stayed with me.
Well,
art was only there 30 minutes.
You know I'm not a psychiatrist, but I did notice when you were telling that story.
You pretend to be one though, Brad. You tried to be.
I did notice when you told that story, you got emotional.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think maybe when you were talking to him, you were talking to you.
Yeah. You bring up a good point. Maybe I'll share something personal. Last night when I was with my therapist / coach, I was given a call to action when I left, because my struggle has been just really being present with Shondell and being grateful. And he didn't make it about Shondell at all. He said, you need to work on being kind to yourself. So he didn't say it that way. He said, I have one thing to ask you this week. I want you to be kind to yourself. So take all these things that give you unkind thoughts about yourself, about the way that your body looks when your shirt's off, and that your rib cage is showing, and things have changed. All those thoughts that come to you, put it in a mass, give it some sort of a form, put it aside, and then what do you still have in your life? Chad, you've got a beautiful family. Everybody knows that. You know what you have. He wasn't there to tell me. He just said, you need to work on being kind to yourself. And I think that was great advice and counsel, because it's easy for me to go be kind to others and to be grateful to others and to show it on a platform. But then when I go back in the hotel room and or when I come back home and have those unkind thoughts that I gear towards Shondell, but it's really me, right? This is really me. It's not about Shondell or anybody else. It's really me. That's living the life of a double standard. That's a hypocrite. And on stage, we always say you want to try and, as speakers, you want to try and be living the life that you're teaching to others. And so we all know that. We all teach that. That's common sense. I'm just learning that 20 years into my career.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think if there was ever a moment that I knew I loved Chad Hymas, that was it.
And it's not that I've been ruthless to Shondell. I don't want to make this sound bad, but I haven't been grateful to her openly.
But
the last couple of weeks have been really good. Maybe even the last month it's gotten to be a lot better. Over the time of COVID, it's gotten to be better and better. But there was some rough days there in the first 2 months of COVID. I mean, it was tough to be home every day. Very, very tough.
Right.
And I get excited to go on a plane again. But you know what? I did really miss hanging out with Shondell this last trip. I really authentically missed it. And our conversations were different on the phone. There was more conversations on the phone. There was more FaceTime. My conversations with the kids were different this last trip. And I hope that just keeps escalating and growing into something that's a beautiful blossom.
Well, you said you weren't that hard on, or whatever, whether or not you're hard on Shondell. It sounds like you have been hard on Chad Hymas.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, there'll be times where I'll be in a hotel room and I'll just think, what really triggers it is movies. I mean, I know that sounds bad, but I'll watch movies and I'll put myself in the place of a movie figure, and I'll think, you know what, that's my fate. God, take me now. You know, I need to let her go. That's
Oh,
you know, just sat movies, and I'll you know what, maybe just not, maybe going to the basketball games and seeing somebody else court their spouse or walk in holding their hand, and I'll look at that and
mm-hmm.
be a little envious. Or I've even had this thought, and I shared this last night with my therapist. I thought it was good coaching as well from my coach or my therapist. That last night, you know, we were talking about. I've got now a son that's married, and so grandkids are probably not too far off, sometime down the road. And you know, what am I going to be able to not do? That's what my focus is. That the other grandfather is going to be able, because we live in cowboy country, and branding and running cattle is a big deal out here, and I'm not going to be able to do all that. You know, what's funny is I've had the same conversation with my assistant who's sitting right by me, Leslie, and she said the exact same thing that my therapist said last night. She said, "But look at all the things you're going to be able to do that others can't do for your." They're
That's
going to be able
right.
to. I know, you see that, and
I
I
want
get
to
that.
jump to the camera and shout at you.
I know, and that's kind of Leslie's like shaking me, and you know, and I don't share these things with Shondell because I'm embarrassed, but I'll share it with Leslie because, you know, I get that straight feedback, you know. So anyway, so you don't need to go see a psychiatrist or a therapist or a coach to get the truth. Sometimes it's right in front of your face, and you just need to. My problem is not getting information. My problem is actually listening to Leslie and putting it into practice. That's my
Right.
problem. So, right. Kind of funny. She's not my assistant now. She's my shrink. She's demanding a raise right now. She's my shrink.
I was just thinking, Leslie, now is the time. The iron is hot.
Right.
More money.
Right.
More money. Well, it strikes me as so ironic and also so utterly human that, you know, because what I see in you is all your gifts and your ability to create a legacy for these grandkids of the future. And you're struggling with that. And, you know, of course, that's in my life too. COVID's been hard on me. Like we talked about being on stage. I felt valued again in a way that I haven't felt that valued, which is so odd because I know, like, why should a room full of strangers validation affect me so much?
Right.
I don't understand why that should be important, but it was somehow, because it was in my small little brain.
Whether we influence, Brad, 3 people in our family or 3,000 in an audience, it's the same. And I think that sometimes we put a stigma on that platform, which is gratifying, and it's a reward, it's a blessing that you and I have to be able to do that. But the truth is, if we don't do it in our own homes, within our own circles of influence,
yep,
what a loss, what a huge loss. And so that's really going to be my focus from here forward. Not just today, but I've been working on this for the past few months. It is my focus today, is to really try and do that. And I hope that helps our people that are listening today and watching, that gives you some sort of clarity. I love what Brad said, that, you know, you don't have to be paralyzed to go through this. There's a lot of people that have gone through loss, and maybe you're thinking some of the same thoughts we've talked about today. Listen to what we've talked about and try and put that into tangible action items. Give yourself a list of 2 or 3 things you can do today that will benefit the lives of somebody in your circle, maybe somebody you work with, maybe one of your children or a family member or a colleague, and then go out and do it. And then watch what happens to your tomorrow. But don't just sit back and watch. Do the same thing over again tomorrow,
right,
to keep it going, because consistency compounds. So be consistent in that. Don't just do it one time and stop. Continually do that.
I love that phrase, consistency compounds.
I took that phrase from John Maxwell. So yeah, John Maxwell taught that to me.
Well, when I tweet it, I'm going to just pretend like it was me.
Yeah. Just put hashtag Brad Montgomery and you're good.
Yeah. Brad Montgomery made this stuff up because he's so brilliant.
Coined Brad Montgomery.
Yeah. Please don't notice Chad or John Maxwell.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
They took it from me a long time ago.
Well, Dang it, it's so good to hang out with you. Thank you for saying yes to this.
I love your personality. You do have a gift that nobody else has. And you asked me in the beginning, what's our time frame? And I told you, buddy, with you, there's no time frame.
Oh,
because I enjoy it. I'm better every time we talk. Every time. I love what you bring. I love how you make me feel. I love your unexpected videos. I love hearing from you, and I love Brad Montgomery. I'm not a fan. I'm a brother.
Well, I've said this, I think last time we did this, which by the way, is kind of fun because I was just sorting out this podcast thing, Chad, when you joined me. So I didn't know what I was doing, please, if anyone's listening, you don't have to listen to the early episodes. You don't have to listen to them. But
I remember that you were figuring out your green screen and whether it was going to be brick or whether it was going to be purple or blue or what kind of background you have. I remember that.
Like what it meant to interview people and what I was after and what was the point. But I can tell you the coolest thing of many, many cool things that have happened with this podcast. And that is that cliche, which I feel like I say this a lot, but that cliche is you are the sum of the people you hang out with and the books you read. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But then all the way through this pandemic, at times when things were shut down, I got to call up people I admire and hang with them, including you. Twice now, and tell me that doesn't leave a mark. That is
no, for sure. Yeah, permanent mark. It's a bookmark on a page that you keep flipping over page after page, and it's the same bookmark when you find those people. And you know what, Brad? When you find them, you stick close by, because they're not always easy to find, right? So,
yeah, that is true. Well, I warned you what my last question is going to be. I like to end with the same question. So here we are, international, world-class, Hall of Fame speaker, deep thinker, heck of a nice guy, Chad Hymas. What gives you hope?
That's your entry, though. That's you right there. That you just explained yourself right there, which I think is great because everything you just said is you. You're in the Hall of Fame. Everything you just said is you. Authentic, heck of a nice guy. That's how I would introduce you. But go. I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
It's just, dang it, you're so nice. Now stop it. Get ready. I'm setting this up because I'm going to edit it later. You know what I'm doing. Chad Hymas, deep thinker, Hall of Fame speaker, international best-selling author, and a bunch of stuff I don't even know except for that he's awesome. What gives you hope?
That tomorrow will be a better day. With everything that we have going on in our world. And all of the things that we see on TV, if you choose to watch it, all the things in the news, I have hope that tomorrow will be a better day. And that's what allows me to wake up every morning with purpose, passion, and perspective. Tomorrow will be better. That's it.
Perfection. Yeah, I love that because it's so simple, and it's the thing we need to hear.
I don't know what else gives me that covers everything that we talked about. It's not hope that I'll be a better dad or be a better father. That really covers every aspect that I'm trying to focus on in my life: physical, spiritual, mental, right, health wise. Tomorrow will be better in all those categories.
Well, today is better for me because I got to hang out with Chad Hymas.
That was a lot of fun. This is cool.
You can learn more about Chad at chadhymas.com. He's all over social media. Just type him into Google and it will blow up with awesomeness. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Chad, hold with me just for a second. Wash your hands, people.